Okay. Huh. Are you ready for some, not corporate finance, but project finance model exercises? So, working a lot on rearranging these exercise, and this first one is an exercise that works through a whole project finance model from the beginning to the end. And I'm going to delete everything we have here and start over. So we want to get some IRRs and some DSCRs. Now, a project finance, unlike a corporate finance, is driven by some time period phases. There's before you're born, and then, a marriage analogy. You get married, oh God, and then you just die. So, the first part of a project finance model, and let me introduce this one to you. This is an extraordinarily simple model, but it, in my opinion, shows a lot of the key aspects of making a project finance model. Now, I'm not sure what I did here, but if we have a construction period of 3 years, 3 days, we can take this, we can put a minus on this construction period and then add 1. Here, I should have introduced the inputs. Very difficult. Revenues that are flat. Total project cost. Timing. Construction period of 3 years. A lifetime of 30 years. Tax depreciation life of 30 as well. Okay. Tax rate of 25. Debt, no fees or anything. Just debt of 800. 80% of the raw cost without any interest during construction or anything else. A tenor, that's kind of long. Let's put 20 years and an interest rate of 5%. It's intended to be very simple. It's intended to just work through all of the issues, and I'll discuss these as I go along. So I just added 1, Shift Control R, and we go up to a maximum of 50 years. Now what we'll do is, I suppose I'll do it like this. No. Yeah, I'll put a 0 here. As whenever this thing is less than or equal to 0, then we do this. And I just press Shift Control R, and we have an operation phase where 2 things are happening. First, we'll put the life of the project here. Now these little columns, I could put life, I put end of construction something. Okay, these are intended to be little things that guide every single, it won't be every single one, but a lot of them. So this time we put, it's a little bit trickier. If you're going to use and or anything, you always start with some time period code. That's one of the real basic things about project finance. If you get a little fancier, you press the F4 key a couple times, and then you make it greater than 0, and you go to the time period again. Come on. And then you make it less than or equal to this number. And I hate this. This sucks. Okay. And then we have another switch. These are the time period switches. Okay. I better take this call. Damn. Come on. Sorry about that phone call. That was ridiculous. Now, I think I also put a tenor. So we'll make a debt repayment phase. It was cable company, and this thing is greater than 0, and this thing is less than or equal to this. I'm just pressing F4. You should really press F4 a couple of times. Okay? And repayment of fund. I have no idea what that was supposed to mean, but for right now, I think, here's what I did. I put the, did I do this? Yes, I put the add-ins in here by going to get the, saying too much. I went to get the Visual Basic and I imported the generic macros. So that's why all of these are already in the file. So we can start with our EBITDA. Okay? So maybe I'll put base EBITDA. That, of course, we have a whole file on this. Now, whenever you take something from our little column, lock it, and then we're going to multiply that by the operation phase. So it stays in there and then goes to 0. Okay, and for the construction expenditures, we'll put the cost. Now, I didn't really say this. I'll have some discussion of S curves, and that's a really pain sometimes to get right. But why don't we take this total cost, and then I'm going to also put the period here. I could have. Why don't we do this? Why don't we insert another column? I think these special columns are helpful, but maybe you think they clutter things up, because then we can press F4 divided by F4 and multiply that by the construction period. And then now we have that, and it spreads it over a level time, so S curve is flat. And just that quickly we get our pre-tax, this EBITDA minus our CapEx gives us our free cash flow, and then let's get our IRR. And maybe I'll put result. Okay. Now, this time, you can be lazy. As long as we don't have any other numbers here, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that gets me. That one gets me. Because why does this shift control, this decimal thing not work? I've got something funny in this program, and it should be so easy. I'm pressing Shift Control D. Now, once you get the pre-tax IRR, you can start aiming for the after-tax IRR. To get the after-tax IRR, we need depreciation expense. So we first need to get our, I don't know why I put an underline here, because it's on the balance sheet or something. We get our, and then let's press alternate equal to sum these. Shift Control R to copy them, and then we have our balance, that this will go on the balance sheet, and let's put our rate for depreciation. How about this time I'll put 1 divided by our assumed depreciation life. Okay, and then we take this one, press the F4. This computer where I have to press the... Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to have a positive attitude for the remainder of this one. And then let's multiply this one by the operation phase, which is not a good thing to do. Because, oops, why didn't I, and then multiply, by the operation phase, and of course by the plant balance. In this case, it didn't make any difference whatsoever if it was the opening or closing balance. Okay, and then once we have that, we can get our EBIT, which is just the EBITDA minus the depreciation. That's not very, hope that's not too complicated. And then let's put the tax rate. Okay, and we'll put the tax rate up here as 25%. I don't need the pre-tax cash flow again. And then let's get right after the after-tax cash flow, I don't know why it didn't say project IRR. You know, a lot of people will make the project IRR some kind of complicated thing. It should be computed just. I'm gonna keep calm. I can't even see. You must be laughing at how bad my Excel is. Multiplied. I can't find that for this computer. My computer was stolen. That's what. I have this computer. It's a cheap one right now. Okay, so our after-tax cash flow is just our pre-tax cash flow minus, oops, the taxes. Just the one we just did. I hope that's the one we just did. And then we can derive the famous project IRR. Okay. And here's the real issue. This IRR should be, this IRR should be bigger than the pre-tax interest rate. This should be greater than the after-tax debt IRR, maybe. I don't believe in all this whack stuff. Just compare it to the interest rate. Project finance is a lot about debt, I think. Now, for the debt financing percent, this is not very good, but we'll take just the capital expenditures. Here, well, I'm going to use this one and divide this by the sum of the entire line. Okay, as long as there isn't anything else in there, that's fine. Shift Control R. When you do a sum, that adds to 1. The Shift Control D went away again. Okay, and then we'll put our construction in, and then the interest during construction. That raises a little bit of a difficulty because we look downstairs instead of upstairs, and whenever you look downstairs, you've got the ominous possibility of a circular reference. Let's put commitment for the debt, all right, and just go up and get our debt commitment. Finding how much debt you can really put in a project finance is perhaps the biggest issue of all. Okay, and let's multiply that one by the percentage. Okay. And then let's put the equity financing. I suppose that was silly to use the Shift Control R. Let's take this minus the total, and then alternate equal. Okay. Then just Shift Control R. Okay, and the opening balance for the debt is equal to the closing balance. Now, I should say the next part of it, after we get the most important part of this exercise, you can see, is to start with EBITDA CapEx, go from that down to depreciation, go from that down to the financing. Because once you hit this famous after-tax, I should call it after-tax, after-tax free cash flow, that's what we should do. And then the new debt issues are just from above. That's why we want to do the debt schedule after the sources and uses. I didn't finish my thought, of course. The whole business is taking this cash flow here and allocating this between debt and equity. That's what all the rest of the project finance model really does. Now for the debt repayment, well, this is going to be, why don't I put our repayment percent? This is going to be a really big issue, but for now, let's just make it 1 divided by the 20 years. Again, this is supposed to be a really simple model, so what you can do is take the, how about this, the sum of this line, that's how much we're going to issue, and multiply that by this one, 4, and multiply this and only perform this function when it's the debt repayment phase. Do you think that'll work? Now the closing balance will be the opening balance plus the new issues minus the repayment. I get that last formula. Maybe you probably could have done it 1,000 ways, but I think it's reasonably elegant, and this is a big check of the model that the debt goes down to zero. What I was just about to tell you as well was these switches are so important. They really should. We should almost lock we should really put them at the very top of the model, and then use the freeze pane. So I'm actually going to do that. Okay, is that enough space? I hope. Okay. In the real model, the rest of it would be in a different page anyway. Where's our pre-tax IRR? And we've got our after-tax project IRR. We could put a debt IRR, and we're just trying to get the equity IRR on the DSCR once we've done that. Okay, and now we can put our interest rate in. We almost, in this case, why don't we do this? Let's just put our interest cost and just put a rate. Yeah, okay, and I'm gonna, once I finish this exercise, I'm gonna save it, of course, so you can have it, but then I'm gonna also delete everything so you can look at it. Let's, why don't we try this? Average. Now this is an extremely dangerous thing to do in a project finance model. It will almost only work in this extraordinarily simple model. And in fact it won't. I'm going to take the opening balance, because we have interest during construction, and multiply it by the interest rate. Okay, so it was intended to say interest cost, not interest expense, because we take this interest cost and we multiply it by the construction phase. And I told you I was going to Alt WW to freeze the panes, and interest expense will just be the total minus the interest during construction. Okay, so we've just allocated some of the interest. Now the whole reason the next exercise will have a monthly construction period is because interest expense has to add up gradually. Now once we have this interest expense, we need to depreciate interest during construction. We need to depreciate it. So we do almost the same thing. Okay, and then we put the depreciation as the balance multiplied by our, where did we put the depreciation rate? I didn't put it, so let's put our rate in here again. I hope you like this silly little business of putting the numbers at the side so you can see how each calculation is made. Okay, some people argue for named cells, and and then I made a mistake. Of course, I don't have any tests in this, but we should absolutely make sure that the depreciation doesn't exceed the or this one, in this case the depreciation equals the total interest during construction. And now to get the balance sheet working, we can take the accumulated depreciation, which is last year's IDC depreciation, plus the depreciation expense. Okay, and then now the rest of it is kind of simple, because the only calculation in the profit and loss you really need is the taxes. Then we're going to have a ridiculously simple cash flow waterfall to get our dividends. We can compute our debt service coverage ratio, our equity cash flow. I don't know why I didn't put equity IRR here. I guess it's beneficial for me to go through these exercises to clean them up a little bit, but let's just begin. So let's do the exciting task of simply linking various things. We start with EBITDA. We get our depreciation, which is our depreciation on our interest during construction, which comes after free cash flow, and then our depreciation expense that was just basic, and then we just start computing some subtotals, and then we can take our interest expense, not our interest cost, and then we can take that difference and get some deductions. And there are all sorts of interesting tax aspects for project finance, interesting whatever. But the using subordinated debt if you can to minimize your taxes and all of this stuff. Then we take the EBITDA, and this time we take away the taxes. That's why we did that whole calculation. And then you can call this CF80 as cash flow available for debt service. And you compare that with the interest expense and the repayment of the debt, which is the debt service, and that leaves you what's left over. And if you're really, really lucky, the banks will let you pay that as dividends. But otherwise, you have to have a little bit. Why did I do this? Debt service coverage. Why don't we just put debt service? This is kind of, you can get a little carried away with some of this, can you? I think it's not that complicated to understand what debt service is. Now, when you do this calculation, you can make an if statement. If this, then you could take this divided by this. So if the denominator, and that would give you false. And a lot of times that works just fine. Whoops, we better copy the rest of these things here. Okay. But occasionally it just, oops, like there, didn't work. So what we, instead of unfortunately doing it like this, we better make it greater than 0.1 or something like that. Okay, and the false is really important instead of a 0, so that you can then get the minimum DSCR. And why don't we, instead of doing it like that, just put minimum and just put equal MIN. You can't shade the whole column because it would give you a circular reference. It would be on itself. The equity cash flow is the dividends minus, and all you have to ever do is look up in the sources and uses statement and find out how much finance is. It's what comes into your pocket versus what comes out of your pocket. I think we should have some development fee issues and everything else. That makes it interesting. So let's put a result, and then we're finished, aren't we? I was kind of dreading this video. It wasn't that bad. Okay, we only have one task left, which is to balance the balance sheet. And here's the issue with balancing the balance sheet is precisely the same as it was in the corporate models. If you looked at any of the corporate model things, I hope we kind of did that, and I have no idea what that repayment of the fund was. We first need an equity balance. Now this time the equity balance, we put an opening balance, and then we put how much equity we put into the project, and that's here in the sources and uses statement. We go up to the earnings. Of course, we couldn't have done this until it was over, so we took the opening balance plus the amount we put in, plus the net income minus the dividends. Okay, and then for the, I suppose, yeah, let's do this. The gross plant is our closing balance. That's why I underlined it. See, and the IDC was up here, and then we put in, I'll put in a minus for the depreciation, accumulated depreciation, which had both. That was, excuse me, that was done here. Hope this is not getting too long and boring. So alt equal this, but I mean, how could you, seeing a balance sheet balance, hang on, the debt balance is up here. That's going to be exciting if it really works. Now, the equity balance is the one we just computed here. And then we can do this and take our difference. And we're really happy when that occurs. And we're even happier when it occurs just on the first sheet. Then we're even happier when it occurs all the way to the end. And to make sure it really works, you can put equal this thing. No, let's do it like this. Round. This, we can put it to 3 decimals, equals 0. Okay. And then we can kind of put an aggregate test using an AND function. And that summarizes a project finance model. And the rest of the videos are going to start dissecting this model and show you that, unfortunately, it's really not quite as simple as all that, because of the circular references, the timing issues, the cash flow waterfall issues, the debt service reserve accounts, on and on and on. Okay, but that gives you the structure. And oh, I thought I didn't. I just thought I had not been recording. That would have been depressing. This is a 27-minute video.